You're listening to the Armchair GM Sports Network.
You're listening to Straight to the Extra Point, your nugget source for all news, draft coverage, free agency, weekly game analysis, game day betting picks, and fantasy football updates regarding the National Football League. Here's your hosts, Brandon Caputo and McMaster.
Welcome back, football fans, to another episode of Straight to the Extra Point. This is our 2021 NFL Draft Preview Show and Round 1 Mock Draft right here on the Armchair GM Sports Network. Your April 26, 2021 edition. Your source of North American sports coverage by sports fans for sports fans living with you right here in the beautiful Niagara region. You can find us on social media for updates, giveaways, as well by following the podcast on Twitter at ArmchairGMPod, as well as follow us on Facebook and Instagram. You can listen to us on many platforms, including Spreaker.com, the free Spreaker app, Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, CastBox, and Deezer. Wherever you're getting your podcasts at, wherever you listen to them, we are on there for you guys by searching the Armchair GM Sports Network. And lastly, our beautiful user-friendly website, armchairgmsports.com, for all things you got on our network, including articles, podcast episodes, sponsors, and contributors. As well, we have a brand new mobile app version, so make sure you're checking that out as well. Wherever is most convenient for you to listen to us, we're on all those different platforms for you. Please give us a like and smash that subscribe button on whatever platform you're listening to us right now. As always, I'm one of your hosts of Straight to the Extra Point. My name is Brandon Caputo. You can follow me on Twitter at Caputs13_AGM. And usually I am joined on the NFL portion of the network by my co-host Miklos, but I don't know if this is an upgrade, a downgrade. I don't know what do you call it, but I'm excited to have on his brother, and he is known as Harry McMaster. He is a wide receiver for the Edmonton Football Team of the Canadian Football League. Harry, it's a shame not to have Miklos on here due to his work conflicts, but I'm fired up to have you on the show, and I know you're not playing any football right now. Fingers crossed that you get a season in the CFL this year, but excited to have you on.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here, and I'm hoping for a Chad Henne-like performance.
Ooh, a Chad Henne-like performance. Yikes. Hope it's better than a Chad Henne performance. Well, then again, I mean that one throw he made, I mean, to get the Chiefs going there. I mean,
yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Get them to the Super Bowl, I guess. That's all you need to do. And Miklos are you saying Miklos is the Patrick Mahomes of this show?
Potentially, yeah.
Ooh, yikes! That's gonna be. His head's going to be about 8,000 square feet after he returns from his 1 week hiatus. But with that said, ladies and gentlemen, on today's show, Harry and myself are going to preview Thursday's NFL draft. By the time this episode hits, hopefully we don't have any other trades, so then it just ruins our entire mock draft. But we're going to go through 1 through 32 as it stands right now and give our reasoning onto why we had those players going in those positions. Just a fun episode for you guys previewing the NFL draft, and we'll be doing a lot of stuff coming out of the draft as well with our draft recap shows and our season division preview shows later on in the year as we look towards the NFL. And Harry, it's exciting time here as we get going with the 2021 NFL calendar, I guess you can say, and the NFL draft, one of the most exciting things of the year.
Yeah, one of the best days of the year by far.
Absolutely. So I know Harry usually does this on his own, so it's exciting that he gets to actually talk about it on a show. I know he usually does his mock draft and always has his binder and that open when we were watching the drafts together over the years. So excited to get him on the show. But with that said, let's get right into it here. And this first segment today is brought to you by Carmine's Pizzeria Italiano, home of the best pizza and wing combos in Niagara Falls, Ontario, from Niagara this week, 4 years running. Visit them at carmine'spizzeria.ca and like their Facebook page as well. Available for call-in, pickup, or delivery. Carmine's Pizzeria Italiano, way too good. So speaking of way too good, Harry, starting off, obviously the Jacksonville Jaguars have the number 1 overall pick for being the worst team in the NFL last year. And there's a lot of new exciting things coming to Jacksonville. You have Urban Meyer as the new head coach. They've got a new regime there. And it just looks like the Jaguars are in the state that they're in, ready to just do a complete overhaul and start fresh here with projected, obviously, number 1 overall pick and franchise quarterback Trevor Lawrence, who I can't remember a quarterback that has had so much hype. We always see hype with quarterbacks, but as far as going back even a year or two, even prior to this, people were saying that this was a race for Trevor Lawrence in the 2021 NFL Draft. And do you see that being any different here with the Jacksonville Jaguars with the number 1 overall pick?
Yeah, I mean, it seems like since he came out of high school, he's been the number 1 overall pick, and it's never really wavered from that. So yeah, no surprise here. It's kind of crazy how good he is. Trevor Lawrence at 1.
Yeah, me too. And Miklos also gave us our picks ahead of time. He has Trevor Lawrence. So to nobody's surprise, Trevor Lawrence going number 1 overall to Urban Meyer. What do you think about that dynamic there, Harry, real quick? Urban Meyer coming from the college ranks and going to the NFL for the first time. I don't think we can remember a time where a first-time NFL head coach had so much eyes on him like Urban Meyer does.
Yeah, I mean, nothing's a guarantee, right? We've seen guys come out of college before and not have the same kind of success, Nick Saban. And, you know, he I don't think he's ever had a losing season in college. So when he comes in, and he's going to lose a couple games with Jacksonville, at least we all assume so. Then we'll see how he responds to that.
Yeah, and again, it's not gonna be great out of the gate, but hopefully by the time Trevor Lawrence has got his feet wet in the NFL, that team is ready to do something big in Jacksonville. But Trevor Lawrence, number 1 overall pick consensus between not just the 3 of us, but basically everybody that covers the National Football League. So with that said, let's move on to the number 2 slot and the New York Jets. And obviously with the trade of Sam Darnold earlier this offseason to the Carolina Panthers, you would assume that they're going quarterback here, and all signs have seemed to point towards BYU quarterback Zack Wilson. Harry, do you see that being any different?
Yeah, that's what I have too. And obviously did not watch a whole lot of BYU football games in my lifetime. But throwing on highlights of this guy, I mean, the way he moves and the way he throws is pretty incredible. So I think that's a good choice at number 2.
Yeah, again, BYU doesn't play the toughest competition over there, and a lot of people don't see a lot of game film of Zack Wilson. People are going to question whether he played well enough competition to be able to warrant the 2nd overall selection over some other quarterbacks available on the list. But according to everybody that has watched his tape and seen the intangibles that this guy has, it seems like Zack Wilson is going to be a good fit as the Jets hopefully are able to turn that franchise around with Robert Saleh now as their head coach. And for the New York Jets fans out there, I sure hope that Zack Wilson is the guy. Sam Darnold really just did not have a lot around him during his time in New York, and hopefully that's not a sign of things to come for Zack Wilson. But moving on to number 3, and we've had a change here, obviously, with the San Francisco 49ers moving up to the number 3 slot, Harry. And you'd think when a team moves up like that, like the San Francisco 49ers did, and giving up as much as they did to move up to that spot with Miami, who had the pick from Houston, that you would assume that a team trades up that far to get a quarterback, would you not?
I mean, absolutely, right? Like, the usual thinking is how do you trade that many picks for anything other than a quarterback? But I think it's a fun conversation. Like, you know, you're trading 3 first-round picks, and you're getting 1 back. So you're really losing 2 first-round draft picks. Would you spend that on a tight end, maybe like Travis Kelce, as a rookie, knowing what he'd become? You know, it's not as crazy as people might think at first. I think, anyways.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. What do you think, Coach?
I mean, to me, it's like the classic Jimmy Johnson rule of trading, right? With the draft picks and what you have to give up to move up in the draft. GMs say they've gone away from that, but it seems like with the way the trades and the trends of trades have looked with teams trading up, they usually end up overpaying, and it's usually to go up and get a quarterback more times than not. So for me, I have San Francisco taking Trey Lance, the quarterback from North Dakota State, with that pick. I don't see how there's a way that that they're not trading up to get a quarterback, and they must think that the teams after them, like maybe possibly Atlanta, Carolina, or even the New England Patriots with a chance to trade up there, might have scared them off and made them make this desperate move here to jump up to number 3 to take a guy like Trey Lance. Obviously didn't play last year, plays in North Dakota State, but we saw another North Dakota State quarterback in the recently traded Carson Wentz have success in the NFL. So it doesn't necessarily mean that you're not going to be a great quarterback just because you play D2, but it definitely doesn't. You're going to have your question marks with a guy that's playing Division II quarterback as opposed to Division I. But Trey Lance to me seems like the guy that San Francisco, Kyle Shanahan, and the regime there would be the type of guy to fit right in if the Jimmy Garoppolo is not in their long-term plans. So for me, Trey Lance at number 3, the Niners trading up to get him.
Yeah, and I have Trey Lance too in my mock draft here at number 3. It's just a fun conversation that maybe Kyle Pitts is the one at number 3. But yeah, I like Trey Lance going there. I had a dream that I was at the draft and they picked Trey Lance. So Trey Lance is the pick for me at number 3. What about Miklos?
Miklos had Trey Lance as well, so
we're
1, 2, 3, but it's not going to be that from here on out, I don't think. Other than the top 3 picks, 3 quarterbacks, though, that's very interesting to see 3 quarterbacks go in a row like that. We saw 5 quarterbacks taken in 2018, but not all in a row like that, so it will be interesting to see if the San Francisco 49ers do indeed go with Trey Lance here, a guy that plays Division II quarterback. But I think where things start to get interesting here is the Atlanta Falcons at number 4. There's a lot of people here that basically can project where these teams are going, but Atlanta seems to be the team that everybody kind of wonders what's going to go on with them, and that's going to be where the dominoes kind of start to fall, other than Wilson, Lawrence, and possibly even Trey Lance at number 3. And if there was a guy to trade up for, I do agree that non-quarterback Kyle Pitts is that guy, because he's projected to be, a revolutionary tight end in the NFL when he does develop into one. But for me, as juicy as getting a guy like Kyle Pitts would be for the Atlanta Falcons, I just think that they, in the position that they're in right now with the aging roster, they need to start addressing the future, and they have not drafted a quarterback very high ever since they drafted Matt Ryan back in 2008, and I do think it is time to try and find a replacement for Matt Ryan. He's got 1 year left on his contract, and I do think that having a young rookie quarterback learn behind a guy that's a former league MVP and has had so much success in the league in Matt Ryan, I think would be a very good situation for a quarterback where he doesn't have to be thrown into the wolves, and he can kind of be groomed into that spot. So for me, I have the Atlanta Falcons taking Justin Fields, the quarterback from Ohio State, and to kind of sit back and not be forced into a situation that we see that can be problematic for rookie quarterbacks. Matt Ryan went in as a rookie and did well with a Falcons team that was trying to come back up top. So for me, I think it's time to find that replacement, and I think the Falcons do it here with Justin Fields at 4th overall.
Wow, Brandon, I'm surprised. I did not expect that out of you.
I know, I love Matt Ryan, but it's just time. It really, he's got 1 year left on the contract, and they're going to need to find a plan at some point.
Yeah, I like the pick, and hopefully you're not picking at 4 in a long time, right? So it's a good time to get a quarterback while you can. And Justin Fields is the hometown boy too, right? I think he's from Atlanta, Georgia. So I like that fit too. I did not go quarterback, but I'm hoping there's 5 quarterbacks in the top 10. Like, I hope everybody goes and they just go nuts for quarterbacks, because that would be really fun. But I have Atlanta taking Kyle Pitts here. I was just thinking they roll it out one more time or 2 more times with Matt Ryan and see what you can do. And how fun would it be for Matt Ryan to, throw at all those receivers he has, and Hayden Hurst too, and now throw Kyle Pitts in the mix. I just think that'd be fun for Matt Ryan. So I put Kyle Pitts in there.
Miklos also picked Kyle Pitts, and it is the trendy pick that everybody seems to be thinking that Atlanta's going to go with. And as great as Kyle Pitts is projected to be, I just can't see them passing up on a young quarterback in the position that they're in. And at 4th overall, I don't know if they're going to be able to draft a quarterback that high next year when Matt Ryan is most likely going to be gone after his contract is up. So for me, I think they need to look to the future. But that Kyle Pitts thing is very tempting when you look at a receiving core that could have Julio Jones, Calvin Ridley, Hayden Hurst, and Kyle Pitts on it. It would be that'd be fun to watch, but I just don't know if they go that route. But we'll have to see. I picked Justin Fields, a quarterback, and Harry and Miklos both picked Kyle Pitts, the tight end from Florida. Moving on to number 5, the Cincinnati Bengals. Who Dey Nation. Shout out to our buddy and contributor Chico Nation, big Cincinnati Bengals fan. I know he's going to be interested with this pick as Cincinnati hopes to protect Joe Burrow, their first overall pick from last year. So for me, if they don't want him having another season-ending injury, they have to address the offensive line. As great as Jamar Chase would be, you have that LSU connection with Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. But I think you have to go with Penei Sewell, the offensive lineman from Oregon. I don't see how you pass up on a guy that is far and above the best offensive lineman available in this draft, and a guy that the Bengals had been targeting since they started to lose many games in the season. A lot of people had Sewell being the main target for the Cincinnati Bengals. So for me, I think it'd be a very, very solid pick to get Penei Sewell, the offensive tackle from Oregon, for the Cincinnati Bengals at 5th overall.
Yeah, and I have the same pick right there. It's kind of like the tank for Tua last year, how everyone was talking about Tua going to Miami. I feel like there's a lot of people talking about Cincinnati getting Sewell this year, even at the beginning of the season. So I like that kind of worked out. And I remember talking with Chico a few times with the Bengals O-line and how they had a lot of Giants cast-offs, which is really not good news for your O-line when you're getting them from the Giants. I think all those guys are gone now, but I don't think you stop there. I think you keep upgrading that O-line and protect the future.
As long as Sewell doesn't turn out to be the next Eric Flowers, you'll be okay.
Oh, absolutely.
And all three of us were on consensus on Penei Sewell going 5th overall, the Cincinnati Bengals. 6th overall is obviously that trade that had the Miami Dolphins trading down and then trading back up to this was the Philadelphia Eagles selection. So now the Miami Dolphins are holders of that. Miklos and myself both have them taking Jamar Chase, the wide receiver from LSU. Harry, do you have anything different?
Yeah, I have Devontae Smith, actually.
Okay, the Heisman Trophy winner from the Alabama Crimson Tide, wide receiver. So you have them going wide receiver, but you don't have them going Jamar Chase. You have them going Devontae Smith. Is there a little bit of connection there, Alabama?
Yeah, I like the Alabama connection for sure. And I think there's no real reason. I mean, the size is a concern, of course. But I think, Chase missing this last year and Devontae Smith just crushing it the way he did. I mean, we saw it in the national championship, too. Like, this guy was just uncoverable no matter where he was. So, for that reason, I think I'd go Devontae Smith first before picking Chase. But I also have a star beside this pick because I think this is where things get really interesting for potential trades. Because I think Miami definitely wants a receiver up here, but I think they can move down, 2 spots, maybe 3 spots to Denver and still get one of those top 3 guys, talking about Waddle too. And then get even more picks because they've been loving accumulating picks at this point this year.
Yep. So Devontae Smith, the wide receiver from Alabama, with the Tua Tagovailoa connection there, Alabama. That's what Harry's going with. Miklos, myself, going with Jamar Chase, the wide receiver from LSU. Either way, Miami's going to have a great receiver here and build their way back up. That was their biggest team need, by the way, was a wide receiver, and it was not even close. So that's what was projected for the Miami Dolphins. So moving on here to number 6 and the Detroit Lions. And this is interesting because I don't know what the Lions are going to do, but I do feel like with new head coach Dan Campbell and them having a new regime there, they're going to want to kind of start over and kind of need a lot of different positions around. So I actually have the Lions trading down, Harry. I don't see a situation where there's a guy that is still on the board where they just go ahead and take him. And again, Kyle Pitts is still there on my mock draft, but to me, they already have TJ Hawkinson, And I don't see them having a situation where they have Hawkinson and Kyle Pitts. You don't want to be taking two tight ends, in the last 3 years here with their first-round picks. So for me, I have Detroit trading down, and I have the Los Angeles Chargers moving up in this spot to take Kyle Pitts at number 7 overall. So for me, I think Pitts is a guy worth trading up for as a generational tight end talent. So for me, I think the Lions move down, accumulate some picks, and the Chargers with Justin Herbert, wouldn't that be a great connection there? They just lost their tight end who went and signed with the New England Patriots in Hunter Henry, so why not go up and get that generational guy, Kyle Pitts, and wouldn't that be great to see a Pitts versus Kelsey matchup with the Chargers and the Chiefs every year? So Detroit trades down, Los Angeles Chargers trade up and take Kyle Pitts at 7.
I like it. That's a whole lot of fun. And that division is going to be going crazy at tight end. Kelsey and Waller and now Pitts. Man, that'd be fun for all of them. I went Jamar Chase because he's there, and I think Detroit would really be happy about that. And I think they really like Jared Goff. Like I think they're gonna, really seriously think about keeping him long into their future. And I think Jamar Chase would help him out a lot, especially with Golladay leaving in free agency.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if there was something for Detroit to take, it would definitely be a receiver. Miklos has him taking Devontae Smith. You have him taking Jamar Chase, but definitely a replacement for Kenny Golladay would be nice as Detroit kind of moves forward here. I don't know if Jared Goff is going to be the quarterback of the future there, but at least for the time being he is. So I have Kyle Pitts going to the Chargers and trading up with Detroit, and you both have them taking wide receivers Chase and Smith respectively. Number 8, the Carolina Panthers, and this has been an interesting spot where people could think that maybe a quarterback would be a spot here for the Panthers, as it seems that there's a little bit of a gap there with Teddy Bridgewater and, reason for concern as to if he's going to be the quarterback that they want moving forward. So do you have them taking quarterback? If not, Miklos and myself both have them going in the route of Rashawn Slater, the offensive tackle from Northwestern.
I did not go quarterback. I went a little off the wall, actually, and I went corner. Carolina drafted all defensive players last year, and I think they keep that rolling. And I also went off the wall, too, with which corner. I went J.C. Horn.
Ooh.
Kind of not a smaller school, but not a big-name school at South Carolina. It just feels like a Carolina thing to do, to get this big corner to South Carolina. So yeah, that's where I went with it.
J.C. Horn going ahead of Patrick Surtain. Wouldn't that be interesting? But Carolina, yeah, I mean, they definitely have needed a lot of help on the defensive side of the ball since the new regime came in there, even though Matt Rule's an offensive guy, and you obviously know what you're getting with Joe Brady as an offensive coordinator. But if a quarterback isn't available at that spot that they want, I do think that they have to go somewhere else. I agree, but you have them going J.C. Horn, the cornerback, and Miklos and myself have them taking Slater, the offensive lineman. Their biggest needs, according to the Draft Network, are offensive tackle, and corner. So I guess they can't go wrong with either pick there. So moving on to number 10 and the Denver Broncos. Oh, everybody's favorite Denver. Wait. Sorry, the Dallas Cowboys. What am I talking? Sorry, number 9 is the. I'm getting all mixed up here with Denver and Dallas. Jeez, number 9, the Denver Broncos. How could I forget about the Denver Broncos at 9? But regardless of that, their biggest needs going into the draft include linebacker, corner, and possibly quarterback if Drew Lock is not the guy that they believe in here. Harry, where are you going with number 9, Denver Broncos?
Yeah, I went quarterback, and I think it's a good option for them to trade up potentially to go get this guy. So Justin Fields.
Okay, so I have the Fields going at 4 to Atlanta, but maybe if Denver gives them an enticing offer and trades up, because to me, those are the two teams that would be if Atlanta passes up on Fields, I think the two teams that are going to be battling would be Carolina and Denver, and maybe even New England if they were really high on him as well, trying to trade up into that spot. But you and Miklos both have Fields going to Denver here at 9. Just Drew Lock, maybe competition for him, or do you think that he would obviously take over that spot and kind of Drew Lock would kind of be left out to dry in that scenario?
Yeah, I think it might just be tough luck for Drew Lock. Just this revolving door of quarterbacks, it seems like for for Denver is probably getting a little tiresome for them. And I think Justin Fields is such a highly regarded quarterback that I think they just take him and they say this is the guy, and enough of all this first round quarterback nonsense is the last one.
Yeah, for their sake, I hope so. And again, Fields was the projected number 2 quarterback, and then all of a sudden the Trey Lances of the world and the Mac Jones and the Zack Wilson started popping up, and now Fields has been, projected between 2 and 5th quarterback taken in this draft, which I thought going in, especially him beating Trevor Lawrence in that playoff game, would definitely put him closer to the 1-2 spot than the latter. But I guess they know things that we don't know. But regardless, I think Justin Fields is a great talent. I would love to see him in Atlanta at number 4, but if Denver gets him at number 9, that would still be a solid pick there. I have Denver going in their usual route of taking defense, and I have them taking Micah Parsons, the linebacker from Penn State. So for me, I just see that being a Denver Bronco type pick right there, a linebacker, and linebacker, corner, and quarterback being their 3 biggest needs. So you both have them going quarterback. I have them going a linebacker. And the Dallas Cowboys at number 10, everybody's favorite team, America's team. What are they going to do? They have all this offensive talent. Dak Prescott coming back. Their defense needs to get some talent on it, to say the least. They need to recruit some talent there for a new defensive coordinator, Dan Quinn, former head coach of the Atlanta Falcons, which I don't even want to get into right now. He brought over a couple of key pieces like Keanu Neal from his Falcons defense there. So do you think Dallas is definitely going defense here? And if not, I mean, there were people saying if Kyle Pitts was on the board that Jerry Jones wouldn't be able to help himself with box office there with a guy like Kyle Pitts. But fortunately for the Dallas Cowboys, in our mock drafts, he is gone in both scenarios. Or in my scenario, he's gone in all of our scenarios. What am I talking about? You guys have him going number 4. So he's gone in both of our scenarios here. So where do you have Dallas going? The projected pick for everybody seems to be Patrick Surtain, the cornerback, the number 1 rated corner. But according to you, you have J.C. Horn going higher than him to Carolina at 8. So do you have Surtain going to Dallas, or do you go in a different route?
Yeah, I have Surtain. I mean, this seems like the biggest lock other than Trevor Lawrence. I don't think I've seen a single mock draft where the Cowboys aren't taking him. So I'm not going to pretend to be smarter than the rest of the world, and Patrick Surtain to the Cowboys.
Absolutely. I don't think there's not much needs to be said about there. Just a solid pick for Dallas, and basically the biggest need that they are going to have there, and the best guy available is Patrick Surtain, so they should be getting a good player in him as they look to rebuild that defense and have a shot here in the NFC East. Speaking of the NFC East, they have one of their rivals, and your New York Giants are picking right after them at number 11, Harry.
Oh, yeah.
The New York Giants' biggest needs, according to the Draft Network, are wide receiver, edge rusher, and cornerback. So where do you have your Giants going here, and what are your just thoughts on them picking at number 11?
Yeah, so I went Jalen Waddle. I'm not particularly confident in that pick. We could definitely go elsewhere, get a D lineman, edge rusher, maybe Kwity Paye. But I like the receiver pick. I mean, we've been struggling at receiver the last couple of years, and guys like Golden Tate who drive me nuts. But we got Kenny Galladay, so I think he'll be better this year, but injury history there as well as Sterling Shepard. So I like Waddle, and the big upside to drafting Waddle here at 11 is that Philly doesn't get to draft him at 12, which is it shouldn't be your draft strategy to take guys so other people don't get them. But I think that's an added bonus for us there.
It's kind of like when CeeDee Lamb went to Dallas last year instead of Philadelphia. That was basically to kind of stick it to their division rivals. And with 3 NFC East teams picking here in a row and how terrible that division was last year, for your division's sake, I hope that these 3 draft picks here can kind of help elevate those teams back from the laughingstock division of the NFL. So you have them taking Jalen Waddle, and I think that would be a very nice compliment to the recently added Kenny Galladay, who I had the Giants in my top 3 of best teams in free agency this year with the moves that they made, and just getting a guy like Kenny Galladay I think is going to be dividends for a guy like Daniel Jones, and kind of seeing what they have in him with a loaded receiving core if they in fact do go with Jalen Waddle as well. So that would be very interesting. But Because they got Kenny Golladay, if they wouldn't have, I would have definitely went receiver here. But because it's kind of not as a glaring of a need as it once was before free agency started, I have them actually going with edge rusher here, Kwity Paye from the Michigan Wolverines here. I just think that obviously edge rusher being one of their biggest needs as they continue to rebuild that defense, and I think he would be a solid pick there in addition to your defensive line there. So what do you think about Kwity Paye? I also think that Miklos had them going him as well, so we're in agreement with that.
Yeah, I'd like that for sure. Gettleman loves D tackles. I mean, if there was a D tackle worthy of the 11th overall pick, I think that's where we're going. But, that's not the case right now. But it'd be great to get someone a little more athletic instead of all the hog mollies, as he calls them, on that defensive front. So I'd like that too.
Yeah, perfect. So with that said, let's move on to the Philadelphia Eagles. And again, you kind of had the Giants taking Waddle so that Philadelphia could not. Miklos has them taking Waddle in his mock draft there. And their biggest needs going into the draft are obviously wide receiver, tight end. They still have Dallas Goedert, and Zach Ertz is still under contract to this day, but we'll have to see if that changes. Cornerback and safety are also big needs for them in the secondary. So where do you have the Eagles going?
Yeah, so I went with corner. I went Caleb Farley.
Okay.
It seems like an Eagles thing to do to get a guy like that. Ignore the injury history and just take the high upside and roll the dice with him at corner.
I went with their second need, actually. I went with offensive line, and obviously if you're going to need to protect a guy like Jalen Hurts, who is going to be running out of the pocket quite a bit with his play style, I went with Christian Darrisaw, the offensive lineman from Virginia Tech. I just think that they're going to need offensive line help, and although it isn't as their number one glaring need as maybe a couple of those other positions are, I do think that they are going to need some offensive line help, especially when you're facing a Washington football team's front four who might be the best in the league with them. So you're going to need to be able to protect and stop their elite pass rush from coming at them. So for me, I have the Eagles taking Darrisaw here, offensive line from Virginia Tech. Miklos has them going with Jalen Waddle, and you have them going with Farley. So 3 different picks for the Philadelphia Eagles in the number 12 spot. Moving on to number 13, and again, this was a one that I had kind of moved as a trade, but right now it is the Los Angeles Chargers that pick at number 13, and this is where Miklos has J.C. Horn going, where you had him going at number 8. So what are you thinking for the Chargers here?
I don't feel great about it, but I had them going at tackle with Slater. Okay. I think their feeling is anything is possible with Herbert. So let's just beef up that O-line and keep him safe.
Okay, so again, we talked about Detroit needing wide receiver help, and this is where I think the trade comes into play here, and I think Detroit takes Devonta Smith. I think he's still on the board at number 13, shockingly.
Oh, yeah, true, eh?
So I have him being available for them at number 13, and Philadelphia also could be an option there of taking him right before Detroit would kind of trade back there. But for me, I think Detroit, like you mentioned, definitely could use some receiver help when Kenny Golladay is no longer there. So I do have them taking Devonta Smith, but it's going to be later on in the draft at number 13, as I had the Chargers trading up to 7 to get Kyle Pitts. So a little bit of a scenario there that would kind of have to play out for me to kind of be right with that, but that's what I'm sticking with here. So you have Slater going at number 13 to the Chargers, and Miklos has the J.C. Horn going at 13 to the Chargers as well. Moving on to number 14 in the Minnesota Vikings. This is a team that I never know what to think of this team. This team, obviously, we all know they have great talent, and they just seem to never be able to get over the hump. We don't know if that's Kirk Cousins related or if it's Mike Zimmer related, but this is always a team where you look and you say, this team could contend, and then one year they're great, the next year they're not. They get Justin Jefferson last year in the draft when trading Stephon Diggs away. I think that trade worked out well for them, given the scenario. So where do you think the Vikings go here with number 14 this year?
Yeah, I feel the exact same way about Minnesota. I guess, their whole team is just Dalvin Cook at this point. And I was kind of thinking that maybe they'd be in the mix for Deshaun Watson. Obviously before, everything. But send Kirk Cousins a couple first-round picks that way and get him, and then pair him up with Dalvin Cook and Jefferson and Thielen. I think you got something going there. But at this point, I was really just trying to connect names with teams instead of thinking best available. And I think Jalen Phillips, the D end, is a name Minnesota would like at this point. Obviously, he's got some questions about injury history, some red flags, but I think it's just be a Minnesota thing to take a guy like that at the end.
Okay, yeah, I mean, Mike Zimmer loves his edge rushers. We all know that. And with the Minnesota Vikings over the years, we always think of their great defensive linemen. So I think that's a solid pick there with Phillips. Miklos has them going offensive line with Darashaw. I also have them going a different road. I have Azeez Ojulari, the edge rusher from Georgia. So I do have them taking an edge rusher, but I think Ojulari from Georgia would be a guy that Mike Zimmer would take a big look at as a sophomore. Rookie sophomore coming out of Georgia. So for me, I have them taking Azeez Ojulari, and you have them taking Jalen Phillips from Miami, both edge rushers, which I think would be a good spot for Minnesota to take at. Next to the New England Patriots, and everybody is in agreement that they are in need of a quarterback, even though they've re-signed Cam Newton for a one-year deal. They loaded up in free agency, which they haven't spent money in free agency in a very long time. Their 1 year of being bad seems to be enough for Bill Belichick. And the guy that everybody has kind of looked at them to move, and if they're going to move up to take, it would be Mac Jones. But in Miklos and myself's mock draft, he's still there at number 15, so we both have him going with Mac Jones, the quarterback from Alabama. Do you have a different route there, Harry?
Yeah, I have Mac Jones too. That's funny. Maybe not at this spot 15, but I think that kind of is destiny for the Patriots, and it's trouble for all of us.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll see what Mac Jones can be at the NFL level. Didn't blow your socks off with his play at Alabama, but maybe he's kind of more NFL ready in that regard, and he's not the flashiest of guys, but we see Tom Brady wasn't the flashiest of players either, and he worked great for what Bill Belichick wanted him to do. So Mac Jones maybe turns into the next Tom Brady, maybe he doesn't, but all signs point to New England taking a quarterback here, Mac Jones. And
it's kind of crazy too, because he's in the mix at number 3, and if he doesn't get taken there, like, he potentially ends up at 15. It's kind of wild like that.
Yeah, it's wild that San Francisco could make him jump up to number 3 or fall all the way to 15, and there's really nobody, I think, else in that spot within those teams that would kind of draft him there. So it seems like San Francisco or New England at this point for Mac Jones. So it could be 3 or 15, or if New England has to trade up to get him, we'll have to wait and see. But lastly, before we hit the break, number 16, the Arizona Cardinals, and Miklos and myself have been on this love affair with the Arizona Cardinals and what Steve Keim has been able to do with this team over the last 2 years since they finished last in the league. Drafted Kyler Murray, brought in so many dynamic players. You look at DeAndre Hopkins. Now they're bringing in guys like J.J. Watt, and it seems like the Arizona Cardinals are doing everything right from draft, free agency, and their play on the field. They look very, very good in a team that's on the way up to contend. Where do you have them going here, as their biggest needs apparently are cornerback, linebacker, interior offensive lineman, and wide receiver?
Yeah, so I have them going corner, and this is a little off the wall too, but I went Asante Samuel Jr.
Wow, okay.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Just like all the big names they got over, they got A.J. Green now, Larry Fitz, and let's throw in a familiar name there, Asante Samuel.
Yeah, Asante Samuel Jr. So interesting there, the cornerback. Again, he's kind of ranked as like maybe a early second-round pick, but I could definitely see him being targeted by a team here, even in the teens or 20s here, as a guy just because of his name alone. So for me, I have them going in a different route, and I'm going to butcher this guy's name, and I apologize in advance to him and his family. It's Jeremiah Owuzu-Karamoah, the linebacker from Notre Dame. I think that Arizona kind of needs some help on the defensive side of the ball there, and I think a solid linebacker at number 16 would be beneficial for them. And we couldn't all be different on this, much more different on this. Miklos has them taking Travis Etienne, the running back from Clemson, so I guess he doesn't believe in James Conner much.
Yeah, I mean, and they still have what's the Edmonds?
Yep,
Edmonds too. That guy chipped in for me in fantasy last year. So
yeah, and they lost Kenyon Drake to the Las Vegas Raiders. So we'll have to see. Travis Etienne be interesting for Arizona there. He'd be a great fantasy option if he was taken there with the way Kyler Murray and that offense is run under Cliff Kingsbury. He'd be probably an instant fantasy darling in that regard, but couldn't be much different. Asante Samuel Jr. for Harry, and for myself, Owuzu Karamoa, the linebacker from Notre Dame. So we've reached halfway mark of the mock draft here. Let's take a quick commercial break and come back with picks 17 through 32. So stay right here. We'll be right back on Straight to the Extra Point and right here in the Armchair GM Sports Network.
Carmine's Pizzeria Italiano, serving traditional-style Italian pizzas made with the freshest, top-quality ingredients. Loaded subs and their famous chicken wings. Winners of the Reader's Choice Diamond Award 4 years running from Niagara this week for Best Pizza and Wings in Niagara Falls. Home of the best tray and wing combo in town for the price and quality. Open daily from 3 p.m. to 9 p.m. Located on the corner of Drummond Road and Dunn Street. Available for call-ahead pickup or delivery at 905-374-4400. Make sure to like them on Facebook and view their website for their menu at carminespizzeria.ca. Carmine's Pizzeria Italiano. Way too good. As we all adjust to this new world that we're living in today, masks are now mandatory, and Niagara's own Custom PPE is Canada's leading face mask provider. Visit them online at customppe.ca and choose between several mask options with different colors and sizes. Add your organization, company, or team logo so you make your face masks unique. Available to purchase online 24/7 at customppe.ca and shipped within 1 week. They have the best prices and quickest turnaround in Canada, and no order is too big or too small. Also offering custom floor stickers as well as face and counter shields for your business or workplace. Visit customppe.ca and use the code ARMCHAIR at checkout for 20% off your custom or blank face mask today. Custom PPE, Canada's leading face mask provider. Attention job seekers, if you are currently looking for work in the Niagara region, you owe it to yourself to check out the services provided by the Niagara Employment Help Center, located at 6100 Thoroldstone Road, Niagara Falls, directly across from the Camisos Plaza. Their free services include resume and cover letter writing, community resource and referral information, local labor market information, job search strategies, assistance with clarifying employment training and career goals, employment counseling and job search support, second career information and registration assistance, and all their services are currently provided by appointment only. So give them a call at 905-358-0021 or visit their website at ehc.on.ca, the Niagara Employment Help Center. This Employment Ontario program is funded by the Government of Ontario.
You're listening to the Armchair GM Sports Network, the Niagara region's best local source for North American sports podcasting coverage. By sports fans, for sports fans.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to part 2 of our NFL draft preview and round 1 mock draft right here in the Armchair GM Sports Network. Brandon Caputo and special guest wide receiver for the CFL's Edmonton Football Team, Harry McMaster, back with you here. And this second segment of our show today is brought to you by J&L Flooring, a Niagara-based specialty flooring and design company. Simplified processes and making homes beautiful are their specialties. Visit them at jnlflooring.com to start on the floor of your dreams today. So, Harry, we get to the point where we're at number 17, and what a way to start off after the break here. We have co-host Miklos's Las Vegas Raiders. Wish we could have got a voice clip of him getting fired up about the Raiders pick here, but for me, I was trying to look off the board because isn't that what usually the Oakland/Las Vegas Raiders seem to do under John Gruden, is go off the board. We saw them draft Cleveland Farrell a lot higher than he had projected, and even Damon Arnett last year as a cornerback went a lot higher than people had expected. So he has them taking somebody that's not off the board and somebody that was already off the board in another way with my mock draft, Micah Parsons. I have him going at number 9 to Denver, but that's where Miklos has them going with their pick at number 17, the linebacker. So their biggest needs for the Raiders are offensive tackle, interior defensive lineman, and linebacker. Where do you have them going, Harry?
Yeah, that's funny because I have them going Parsons as well.
Okay.
I didn't find him a home until this pick here, and I made it really easy for Vegas to take the best linebacker on the board.
Absolutely. I have him going at number 9, so I think that he's a very solid player. If he drops to Las Vegas at 17, I think Miklos should be jumping up and down about that pick. But unfortunately, on my board, he is not available. So I actually went with a similar position, but I had them taking Baron Browning, the linebacker from Ohio State, because Parsons was not on the board. They had to go with the next best available. But I was trying to look off the board for a guy maybe later on, maybe a later linebacker that was projected in the second round that the Raiders would somehow take with the 17th pick here, but I couldn't find it. So I had them going with Browning from Ohio State. You know that John Gruden loves those big schools, so Ohio State, obviously a solid program there and one of the best in the country. So Parsons going for Miklos and Harry, and for myself, Browning, but both linebackers for Vegas at 17. Next, we move to the Miami Dolphins at number 18, and very interesting here, their second pick in the first round in this draft here. You had them going with wide receiver Devontae Smith and as well as Miklos. I had them going with Jamar Chase, the wide receiver from LSU. So they got a wide receiver already. Where do they go at here, number 18?
Yeah, so I went defense here, and Kwity Paye's still on the board, so they take him, and they're very happy about that.
Yep, I think that would be a solid pick if he's still available at number 18. Miklos has them going in the route of... Sometimes I can't read your brother's writing, and it's messing me up for the show. So, Owa, that's it. I can't. Jason Owa, the edge rusher from Penn State. So okay. He has them jumping up there and taking him. So you have them both going defense. Now, I didn't have them taking Devonta Smith from Alabama as the receiver, but I think the Miami Dolphins here, running back being a need for them, I think that there's a possibility here that we could see a different reunion with the Alabama Crimson Tide, and I think it could be Najee Harris paired with Tua Tagovailoa, gets his running back from their days in Alabama under Nick Saban. So I think they go with wide receiver with their 6th pick, and then they go running back at 18 and kind of bolster up that offense for Tua and get him 2 very solid playmakers.
I love it. Yeah, get Devontae Smith and Harris. Just Alabama pipeline.
Just get the entire Alabama offense. Wouldn't that be interesting? But yeah, I have them going with Najee Harris, the running back from Alabama. You have them going with Paye, the offensive lineman, who I had going at number 11 to the New York Giants. Miklos has them taking Owa. So with that said, moving on to number 19, we have the last team in the NFC East to pick. We have the Washington Football Team, the winners of the division last year. Obviously, we know how unbelievable that defensive front is that they have under Ron Rivera with all those great young playmakers. It is a very scary team to look forward to, and that's going to be the heartbeat of their team, I believe, with that defensive line for years to come with Washington. So where do you have them going here? Their biggest needs are offensive line, linebacker, safety, and corner.
Yeah, I had them going linebacker with Owusu Koramoah. I think you're when you're rolling with Fitzpatrick, you're going to get what you're going to get. So just keep building up that defense. That's your strength, and just keep it that way with a really good linebacker here.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you know what Fitzpatrick's going to do. He's going to throw some touchdowns, going to throw some picks, kind of put the defense in a couple of bad spots. So Owusu Koramoah, I had him going at 16. You have him going at 19 here to Washington. I think that would be a solid pick for Washington, continuing to bolster up that defense like you mentioned. And I have them going in another route with Farley, actually. You had him going at number 12 to the Philadelphia Eagles, but I have him going here to the Washington Football Team, and I'm trying to pull up his profile here, and there he is. Caleb Farley, cornerback from Virginia Tech. I think that would be a solid pick there for Washington. Either way, they're going, looks like corner or something on the secondary. I think that'd be a solid add for Washington. Moving on to number 20 in the Chicago Bears, the Bears. Oh boy, I don't know what to think of this team. Now they got Andy Dalton at quarterback. I don't know what to think about that, but according to the Draft Network, their number one need is still quarterback, along with offensive line, wide receiver, and corner. So what do you think for the Bears?
Yeah, I was thinking receiver maybe. but I ended up going with O-line with Vera Tucker out of USC. I think you just help out Andy Dalton any way you can and fortify that O-line for him. And, hopefully Allen Robinson stays happy and they can become a pretty good pair this year.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. I have them taking Vera Tucker too. I mean, he was he was the best interior lineman left on the board here for me. So I think Chicago definitely needs to address the offensive line, and I have them taking Elijah Vera Tucker from USC, the junior. So we both have them going in that route. And I think Miklos has them going Rondell Moore. And again, that guy, or sorry, not Rondell Moore. There's a different Moore, and I can't, off the top of my head here, I can't find him on the list. Unless
Elijah Moore.
Elijah Moore, that's it. Yep.
Oh,
so that's,
miss.
God, Miklos, you got to send me better. Like, I can't even read his writing, man. So it's Elijah Moore. So that's who he has going at number 20 to the Chicago Bears. So Vera Tucker for Harry and myself. Moving on to number 21, the Indianapolis Colts with newly acquired Carson Wentz reunited with Frank Reich. A lot of people have said that the Indianapolis Colts were a quarterback away from being a Super Bowl contender. They have a solid roster already, but their biggest needs are offensive line, corner, and wide receiver. Where do you see them going for here? Is Indianapolis is really in a win-now scenario, in my opinion.
Yeah, I didn't fill any of those needs with this pick, but I went edge rusher Greg Rousseau. I'm not happy about that fit, but it would definitely make their team better, and it's always good to pick up some edge rushing ability.
No, solid pick there. I have him going with a guy that you took a lot earlier, J.C. Horn. I think that he's still available on my mock draft. So J.C. Horn, the cornerback from South Carolina, going to the Indianapolis Colts at number 21. I can't even read who Miklos wrote for his number 21, so I'm not even going to try to attempt that one. Moving on to number 22, the Tennessee Titans. And again, they had a couple of big losses their offseason. They obviously lost Adoree Jackson, their starting cornerback in free agency. So that's obviously one of their biggest needs is corner as well, wide receiver, and offensive tackle.
Yeah, I went to a safety here. It's a little off the board with Trevon Moehrig.
The best safety available.
Yeah, I think they need some help in the secondary, and he's the best safety.
Okay.
Take him.
Moehrig, definitely number one safety available. I think that'd be good for Tennessee as well. But I have them going... trying to think here. Well, I don't even know. I got it on my board here. I don't know why I'm trying to rethink it, but I have them going with, and I'm just trying to find him on the prospect list. I already have him written down, and that is, give me 1 second here. This thing is not in the greatest of orders here, and it is Newsome. I have them taking Newsome. So that is the guy that I have going to the Tennessee Titans, Greg Newsome II from Northwestern, ranked number 31 on the draftnetwork.com list. But I have the Tennessee Titans kind of reaching here for a position of need with cornerback, and I think he'd be a solid add to replace Adoree Jackson there and to get another first-round corner. I think would be solid for Tennessee in that spot. So Greg Newsome, cornerback from Northwestern, and you have him going Moehrig, the number one rated safety. Miklos also has them taking Greg Newsome, the cornerback. So him and I are in agreement with that. Next,
okay, all secondary for Tennessee.
Yep, I think that's probably where they need to go, to be honest, anyway. But with that said, number 23, this was the Seattle Seahawks pick that was traded to the New York Jets in the trade for Jamal Adams last year. So where do you have the New York Jets going here? They took Zack Wilson at second overall, so where do they go from here?
Yeah, this is my first running back off the board in Najee Harris.
Ooh.
Hook him up with Zack Wilson, and let's go.
All right, Zack Wilson and Najee Harris. Wouldn't that be nice for New York Jets fans to see for years to come? Would be very, very exciting coming from those two guys there. And obviously, Miklos has them going with a guy that Jamin Davis, the linebacker from Kentucky. So he has them going with a linebacker in that spot. I have them going with Phillips, Jalen Phillips, the edge rusher from Miami. And in my mock draft, he is still on the board. So for me, you have him going to number 14 in Minnesota. But I think he's still available at number 23, and it would be a very, very good ad for the Jets for him to drop to number 23. So you have him going Najee Harris, running back. I have him going Jalen Phillips with edge rusher. Now, 24 is where it gets interesting. The Pittsburgh Steelers. Oh boy, what do the Steelers need? The Steelers need, other than to get somebody younger at quarterback than Big Ben Roethlisberger, they need a cornerback, offensive line, interior O-line, and running back after losing James Conner to free agency. Where do you have the Steelers going here, Harry?
You know, I like Kyle Trask, quarterback out of Florida. I think he's going to sneak in the first round, so I have him a little bit later, but he kind of reminds me of Big Ben, so that would be a good, fun pick for me. But death, taxes, and the Steelers taking a linebacker in the first round, I got Azeez Ojulari.
Okay, yes, solid player. I have him going at 14 to the Minnesota Vikings, but if he falls to the Pittsburgh Steelers, we all know Steelers love to draft, like you said, first-round linebackers, so that would be a Mike Tomlin and Pittsburgh Steelers type pick there. And again, they have a backup quarterback who was a first-round pick at one point, Dwayne Haskins, but we don't know what that's going to turn into these days. But Miklos has them going Najee Harris, the running back from Alabama. And I have them going running back as well, but I have them going with Travis Etienne from Clemson. So for me, I think they definitely need some running back help. They haven't been the same since Le'Veon Bell held out, and I think this is where they get back on track here with a solid talent here with Travis Etienne from the Clemson Tigers. You have them going Ojulari from what school was Ojulari from? Georgia, thank you. Yes. Azeez Ojulari, the linebacker from the Georgia Bulldogs. Next, we have the Jacksonville Jaguars, second first-round pick here. This was from the Los Angeles Rams trade for Jalen Ramsey last year. This is the latter part of it. So where do you have Jacksonville going? They get Trevor Lawrence. They get the first overall pick in the draft, and then they go at 25 here. What do you have them going here?
Yes, you guys had Greg Newsome going a few picks earlier. I had them taking him here. I know they went first-round corner last year, but you can never have too many corners, and they need another good one. So Greg Newsome out of Northwestern. Greg Newsome the second out of Northwestern.
Yes, make sure we notice that. Greg Newsome the second. We don't want to mix that up. Same with Asante Samuel Sr. We don't want them taking him back at his age. Maybe 10 years ago, but. With that said, you have Greg Newsome going here to Jacksonville, which is a very solid pick. I have them. You had Moehrig going to Tennessee at 22. I have him going here, the number one rated safety to the Jacksonville Jaguars here, as they need to really rebuild that defense, especially the secondary. So for me, I have them going with the best available safety in Trevon Moehrig from TCU Horned Frogs. Miklos has them going with a guy that I cannot read his writing. So we'll move on to number 26 and the Cleveland Browns, the host city for the NFL draft. You think they do a big splash here to get the fans in Cleveland riled up, or you think they do something here that isn't the flashiest thing here, which would probably be something like interior defensive lineman, maybe an offensive line. Their biggest needs are edge rush, wide receiver, corner. Where do you think the Browns go here as the host city?
Yeah, I went linebacker here with Jamin Davis. That's not super flashy, but I think it'd really help their defense out.
Okay, Jamin Davis. I went with Landon Dickerson, a interior offensive lineman from Alabama. I just think that getting some O-line help wouldn't be a bad thing for the Cleveland Browns here, as they run through literally their run game with the way that Baker Mayfield plays quarterback, and with that two-headed monster at running back with Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. So I think you bolster that offensive line and play to your strengths with that. So for me, Leonard Dickerson, number 26 to Cleveland, and you have Davis going. And I think this is where Miklos had Owuzu Kawamoa going, if I can read his writing a little bit. It's two names, and one of them starts with a K, so I'm going to assume it's him. I don't think there's anybody else in the draft that has a name like him, so it's Owuzu Karamoa, the linebacker from Notre Dame. Moving on to the Baltimore Ravens, and they interestingly have the number 27 and number 31 picks here, and I was having a hard time deciding what they would do with this pick, and at 31, for that matter, the trade with the Kansas City Chiefs. So for me, I could definitely see Baltimore packaging up both these to move up to get a guy maybe in the 10 to 15 range if there's a guy that they really like. But as for the way that that the draft's shaking out right now. They're still picking at number 27. So for me, their biggest needs going into the draft do include edge rusher, offensive tackle, safety, and wide receiver. So I have them taking a wide receiver here to complement Hollywood Brown on the opposite side, and I have them going with the wide receiver, Terrence Marshall. So that is the pick I have for the Baltimore Ravens. Where are you going there, Harry?
Unreal. First of all, yeah, I think Baltimore, I think their plan should be to trade up. I mean, getting that extra first-round pick late, I think you package those two to move up. But I went receiver 2, exact same player with Marshall. And the more I look at that pick, I just love it the more and more I see it. I think that's a match made in heaven, and I love him going to Baltimore.
Yep, the 6'3" wide receiver from the LSU Tigers. I just think it's a good spot there for Baltimore. Wide receiver is one of their biggest needs. You have the speedy guy on the outside like Hollywood Brown. You need a guy on the outside, the guy to go up and get the ball, guy threaten the red zone. They obviously have Mark Andrews, but adding Terrence Marshall to that already loaded offense with Lamar Jackson, I think would be very, very fun to watch. So for me, and for you as well, Harry, Terrence Marshall, wide receiver from LSU to the Baltimore Ravens. Next at number 28, this is an interesting spot here for the New Orleans Saints. They obviously lost Drew Brees, who is now retiring, so we don't know if it's going to be Taysom Hill or Jameis Winston throwing the ball down the field, but they do need some wide receiver help to complement with Michael Thomas. They also need the corner, edge rusher, and linebacker. Where do you have them going with this pick?
I have Kyle Trask. I'm just going to come right out with it.
Wow.
I think he's going to sneak into the first round, and I think New Orleans is the team to do it.
You don't think that they believe in Jameis Winston?
Winston's looking good, and he could be the future. And Taysom Hill, anyways, I like Kyle Trask going there.
All right, so Kyle Trask sneaking into the first round, quarterback, and having a competition and kind of an interesting dynamic there in New Orleans, and a controversy with Jameis Winston. Wouldn't that be something as they move on from the Drew Brees era? Miklos has them going with a guy that I think has definitely moved up the rankings in the draft, and a guy that when I first started looking into draft stuff, second, third round for this guy, and he has just continued to move up, and that's because of the all-world speed that this guy has. Rondell Moore. If you haven't seen this guy, you'll miss him if you try watching him on tape. That's how fast this guy is. He's like a jet. This guy is by far the fastest receiver in the draft. He doesn't have the greatest size, but man, watching this guy run down the field, he just looks like he'd be Kansas City bound if Kansas City had a first-round pick here with all of their track stars, with guys like Tyreek Hill and Mecole Hardman and Demarcus Robinson. Just unbelievable speed they have on that team. So for me, I think Rondell Moore is a solid player for New Orleans, and I would hate to see them get him because I think he would be torching my Atlanta Falcons secondary for years to come in that regard. So he has them going Rondell Moore. I have them going Jalen Waddle. I think he slips a little bit. I don't know if, again, there's teams that could take him as high as you had the Giants taking him at number 11, and Miklos had him going at number 12, but I just think that there is a situation here where a guy like Jalen Waddle kind of becomes available because people aren't really looking at receivers as opposed to where the rest from guys like 15 to 25 are projected here. I just think the way that the draft could fall, New Orleans could get a steal in Jalen Waddle here. So Miklos and I both have him going wide receiver. You have him going Kyle Trask, quarterback from Florida. Next.
Yeah, that might be more of a dream than anything, but let's take all the quarterbacks, guys. Let's go.
Let's get them. Number 29, the Green Bay Packers, and obviously they have not drafted great over the last couple of years, and they drafted a quarterback with their first-round pick last year to kind of sit behind Aaron Rodgers. Where do you think the Green Bay Packers go with at number 29 here? And it better be good, or Aaron Rodgers is not going to be happy again. Their biggest needs are offensive tackle, wide receiver, corner, interior defensive lineman, and linebacker.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of Aaron Rodgers, so I kind of love this storyline going on. I have the Packers taking linebackers, Zaven Collins. Okay. No help for Rodgers. He'll figure it out.
No help for Aaron Rodgers. Miklos has them going wide receiver and taking... Jeez, come on, man. I can't even... There it is. Sean Bateman, the wide receiver. So he does have them getting some help for for Aaron Rodgers there. I think he is he's one of those guys where he does everything very nicely, doesn't do anything outstanding, but he is very, very solid receiver. So I think that would be a guy that Aaron Rodgers would love to add to his arsenal and his wide receiving core. By the way, Rondell Moore, he's a 5'9" receiver, 175 pounds from Purdue. Again, you probably don't see a lot of Purdue Boilermaker games, but that guy is a treat to watch. He's kind of like my guy that I want to see where he falls in the draft because he's a very exciting player. With that said, I have them going with Jenkins. That was just the best available at the position that they needed, offensive tackle, Kevin Jenkins from Oklahoma State for the Green Bay Packers at 29. Number 30, everybody's favorite around this area, Harry, the Buffalo Bills. Circle the wagons. Obviously, you'd love to get them. You'd love to get them taking an offensive player to load up Josh Allen's receiving core there. But if there was a position for them to go other than offense and possibly offensive line, would be cornerback in my opinion. Or if they decide to go running back, if there's one of those top guys still available, that would be interesting too. But I have them going with Stokes. He was the best available left at the cornerback position. Eric Stokes, the cornerback from Georgia, was the best cornerback left available on the board. So that's where I had the Bills going, Harry. Where do you have them going? Do you have them taking a playmaker, a wide receiver, a running back, or do they go on the defensive side of the ball?
Yeah, I sure do. I only have one running back on so far. That's Najee Harris. So ETN finds a nice little home in Buffalo. And let's get this offense going, man, because that'd be scary.
That would be amazing, and I'm sure Bills fans would love that. They're missing that dynamic running back. Devin Singletary is a nice player, and you know, it's just what ETN could possibly bring to them would be another level. So I think that would be a very nice addition to the Bills offense. If they don't go running back, I think they have to go corner, but that would be an interesting spot for them as well. Next at number 31, which is the Baltimore Ravens' second pick that they received from the Kansas City Chiefs in their trade early last week. So where do you have them going here? They had drafted Terrence Marshall at 27, according to both of us. Where do they go at 31?
Yes, I have edge here, Jason Owe out of Penn State.
Okay.
Baltimore loves their defense. They love their edge rushers, so get another one.
Okay, so yeah, I mean, if Owe, I was really debating between him and the guy I ended up picking, which was Eichenberg, the offensive lineman, but from Notre Dame. I just think that they got rid of their left tackle. They kind of need to address that. Obviously losing a guy like they did to the Kansas City Chiefs in that trade, they have to get a guy like Eichenberg back here, especially now that they have 2 first-round picks. If they don't package one up and move up in the draft, I think getting Terrence Marshall, wide receiver at 27, and then Eichenberg, an offensive tackle, would be solid for Baltimore as they continue to build up and bolster that offense for Lamar Jackson, even though it would be a typical Baltimore Ravens thing to do, would be to take a defensive player. And they did lose Matthew Judon, which I think is a huge loss for them, going to the New England Patriots on the defensive line. So I could definitely see Owa going there like you had him going at 31.
Yeah, can we talk about this trade for a second, too?
Yeah, I know
Miklos was pretty upset about it. But, I mean, I think I feel like they could have got a better value for such a young Pro Bowl tackle. I mean, everyone has to be dying to get him. And, you get a 1, but you give away a 2. And then, some late round picks are thrown in there too. And I think the biggest thing is giving him to Kansas City, who is your number 1 threat to you making the Super Bowl in the AFC. I mean, I don't understand that at all. Obviously, he's asking for a trade, so you're losing some leverage there, but there's got to be other suitors to, at least get you the value you got from Kansas City.
Yeah, that's what we were talking about on our free agency recap last week, was basically, if you're Baltimore, you should have asked for a lot more. I mean, again, they're one of your biggest competition in the AFC, the team you have to go through, and you're giving them their biggest need in offensive line and left tackle to protect Patrick Mahomes. For me, they should have gotten a lot more from Kansas City in that regard. And again, they did okay, but they definitely should have been able to hit one out of the park here, Harry.
Mm-hmm. So. Yeah, I think if you're Kansas City, you're loving it, because your O-line that got destroyed in the playoffs and the Super Bowl, most notably there, and with injuries, is really rebuilt through this offseason. And Mahomes is going to be sitting nice back there.
Yeah, absolutely. So, again, I think Baltimore, now they have to kind of look at the offensive line, and that's why I have them taking Eichenberg, because now they have a hole at left tackle. And, again, he requested a trade, but like you mentioned, he's still in his rookie contract, and everybody would want a young left tackle like that. So it was kind of interesting to see Baltimore make that move. But, again, maybe they package 27 and 31 and move up, Harry. Do you think that that is a possible scenario once draft night hits?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, especially, 31. I mean, sure, you can get to end of the first round players, but you could really move up quite a ways with those 2 picks and get a higher value player. Maybe you get that, Vera Tucker or higher rated O lineman before someone like I have Chicago taking him. So yeah, I think that's definitely a possibility.
For sure. So Baltimore, number 27-31 will be very interesting to see what they do here after that big trade with Kansas City. And lastly, the Super Bowl champions, 32, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers with Tom Brady, bringing most of the band back together. We don't know if Antonio Brown's coming back, but with that said here, Miklos and myself had the same pick, so I'll go ahead and mention it first. We both had Jason Owa, the edge rusher from Penn State, going to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers with their biggest need being wide receiver and edge rusher.
Yeah, I had them... I don't think I've had a true D tackle go off the board yet. I had them taking Christian Barmore out of Alabama. And I think, Ndamukong Suh is another year older. And, bringing back every starter, they have some flexibility to just take a shot here. And I think there's some red flags with Barmore. But if he can play really well and perform as well as he can, or as well as we think he can, then that'd be a huge advantage for Tampa Bay.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy that the first D tackle off the board would be at 32. There really isn't that top-end defensive tackle that's available this year. Kind of seems like Barmore is going to be the first one taken as far as a true defensive tackle and a guy that isn't drafted as an edge rusher and then moved over to defensive tackle. But, I mean, again, we usually see a couple of those guys available in the first round, but there really isn't that deep talent at defensive tackle this year.
Yeah, for sure. So all 3 of us went D-line there. So I think you can never have too many guys, especially you get a rotation going in there. And like I said, Sue and Pierre-Paul too, another year older. So I think that'd be great for Tampa Bay.
Yeah.
And, it's all bonus too for them, It's house money.
Yeah, getting Tom Brady. And Vita Vea is also a nice player, too, that they had drafted in the first round as the interior defensive lineman. So why not go back there with Barmore? So that would be interesting. So with that, that's it for the first round. Obviously, I've mentioned that Rondell Moore is a guy that I really like and want to see where he ends up falling. Maybe on day 2, maybe day 1. A team really likes him that much he gets taken in the first round, maybe not. But what are a couple guys that you're looking at, Harry, that have a shot to go in round 1, but that you're really looking forward to see where they go in round 2, and a couple guys that you think are really solid players that are kind of first round talent worthy?
Yeah, I have a couple guys here. Chuba Hubbard. You got to shout out our Canadian guys out here. So I think he's probably maybe second round probably. But I'd love to see him go high, representing the Great North. And another guy I love, if you were number 32, playing linebacker at Alabama, then sign me up. They got Dylan Moses. He reminds me of C.J. Mosley. So I love myself some Alabama linebackers. So I can see him going high second round.
Yeah, Dylan Moses is a very, very good player. If you're able to watch Alabama, I think he's underrated as far as a linebacker goes, and he could end up being a guy that we might look back at and say, wow, he should have been a first-round player. So that's definitely a solid pick there. And Chuba Hubbard, the running back for Oklahoma State, what can you say about this guy? What an incredible year he had, and obviously as a Canadian, we follow him a little bit more up here in the Great White North. So those are a couple of very, very solid players that we could see go in the maybe first round, but most likely second round, and somebody's going to get a very solid player in those with those guys later on in the draft. Harry, what do you think of the draft this year? Just as we wrap up here, what do you think that it's going to be like now that it's going to be back in person and not have we're not going to get to see Commissioner Goodell in his home with the fans in the background there on his television, making the picks this year as we get back, hopefully back to a normal draft like it is the spectacle that we get every year.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm sure there's going to be a ton of people out there in Cleveland, and they're going to be super fired up. The dog pound is going to represent. I think there's guys who skipped out. They're going to stay home, so I think we're still going to get some of those look inside of crazy houses that they rented for the day, and some of that fun at home footage. But yeah, I'm excited to see what Cleveland's up to over there. It's going to be good to have the stage again.
Mm-hmm. And the thing that I'm looking forward to is the guys that didn't play this year. The Trey Lances of the world, or last year I should say, the guys that didn't play last year, where they end up going. And if them, basically opting out because of the COVID issues last year, kind of how that affects them. Does that make them drop in the draft? Does it have them not really being affected? Or if it plays any effect at all? I'm just really interested to see the guys that didn't play last year, kind of how that affects their draft slot.
Yeah, it should be interesting because I think there's some guys it's going to affect a little more than others. I think guys like Jamar Chase who have the name recognition and the star power, I think he's still going to go up there really high. But missing a year of football is a pretty big deal. That's significant. So we'll see how teams react to that.
Yeah, I'm sure you're fired up to get back on the field as well. But the last thing I want to say is that if Kyle Pitts is there at number 10, do you see that there's any way that Jerry Jones can pass up on box office and just going with no defense whatsoever with the Dallas Cowboys?
No chance. I think if he gets like 6 or 7, he's going for it. Why not?
Oh, that would make for the headlines and the tabloids. That would be hilarious for football, but that would be one heck of an offense and one horrendous defense for Dallas. That would be fun to watch, as the Dallas Cowboys are always the thing that you can't turn away from. It's like a bad car wreck. So with especially the NFC East in general this year, we'll have to see how that division builds its way back up. But that's basically going to wrap it up for today's 2021 NFL Draft Preview Show and our Round 1 mock draft right here in the Armchair GM Sports Network. Hope you guys enjoyed that. That was over an hour episode, very longer episode than we're used to, but a lot of good insight here from Harry as he takes Miklos's place on this show today in his place. So with that said, ladies and gentlemen, this has been Straight to the Extra Point on the Armchair GM Sports Network by sports fans, for sports fans, delivered to you right here in the beautiful Niagara region. As always, I'm one of your hosts of Straight to the Extra Point. My name is Brandon Caputo. You can follow me on Twitter at Caputs13_AGM. And as well, a big thank you to my guest co-host today. He is wide receiver for the CFL's Edmonton Football Team. He is Harry McMaster. Harry, so happy to have you back on the show and taking your brother's place on this show. And it's been a lot of fun, and hope to have you back on again.
Thanks, Brandon. It's always fun to talk draft.
Oh, yeah, and fired up for the draft on Thursday. Hope everybody enjoys it safely in their homes. It's a great night of watching something that isn't a live sport, I guess, but it is a spectacle, and it always gives us some entertaining things to talk about, good and bad picks from most of these teams. So with that said, again, this is Straight to the Extra Point on the Armchair GM Sports Network by sports fans, for sports fans. We'll see you guys next time. Enjoy the NFL draft, and we'll be back with our draft preview shows next week. Take care, guys.